Ooh. I've been looking for a replacement for Saboteur, for Poison Seismic Trap for a while, and I tried some Pathfinder stuff and personally really didn't like it all that much. And I also tried some Assassin some time ago and couldn't really make it work either. So mainly a skill issue probably, because I'm not that great of a build maker, and that's also why I'm super interested right now, because Jungroan dropped a Poison Seismic Assassin, right, build. So I'm super excited to check that out. Already had a little bit of a sneak peek, but it's essentially me looking for more or less the first time on his POBs. I'm just going to go over them. Keep in mind, Jungroan is a significantly better player and build maker than me, so he's probably more right than I am. Most of things, so I'm just giving you my personal perspective, and yeah, just that, essentially. So yeah, also in case this is not clear, I made none of this. Nothing. That's all Jungroan. I link his video and his content and the POBs. That's also where you find the POBs on Jungroan's video, not on mine, right? Cool. So, I mean, looking at this is like the old hardcore tree. That's like the super standard tree, which is kind of cool and interesting. I expected something completely different when I opened this, like some crazy... I don't even know what I expected. Maybe I was just hoping there would be something different. But what I really like is going back into this area. If you played Poison Seismic for a while, especially in a more hardcore setting, or you played my adaptation of that in softcore even, then you might remember how much I liked going down here to like all these armor nodes and life nodes and even more armor nodes, and you get this maximum res and you have access to this corrupted blood thing until you get maybe a jewel over time, right? I really like these jewels that have anti-corrupted blood. That's kind of cool. You have easy access to the center then anyway, which is kind of cool, especially these nodes are really good with the duration for Seismic itself. I'm kind of liking this. In that case, are we taking the 15% maximum life, which is cool. And other than that, it's pretty standard and also interesting enough with Assassin. And it's mainly because of this node, isn't it? Like, this node is really good. Like, just the poison chance on hit is crazy. I feel like it makes stuff so much simpler because you invest so much into poison chance. Otherwise, you need to come down here. Like, that's really far. That's like 7 more points. Or you needed to early travel down here. That's kind of cool. I mean, other than that, let's talk about a bit about this ascendancy. Like, this is really cool, right? You get life recovery by poison affected enemies. That's kind of cool while clearing. So you can just naturally clear, and you should have a bunch of life recovery, right? On kill at least, so that's not too bad. I would think, and obviously poison chance, and actually for bossing and everything, or just like increasing your damage. That's really, really cool. Here you get into this crit stuff, which is kind of interesting. That crit is actually useful for poison, because otherwise it does nothing, I believe. Like a critical strike does nothing for poison outside of that, does it? At least not as I understand. Here, more damage on the low life things. It's more like culling is cool, obviously built in is cool, and essentially the execute on the low life enemies is kind of nice, and this just gives us more damage on a single target situation, which is cool. Also some survivability, obviously, and reflect shouldn't really matter at all because we don't have 100% critical strike chance all the time, so it's like kind of whatever. So that's kind of cool, especially this node is cool. That makes stuff significantly easier. Also keep in mind that this is a very SSF kind of situation. So this doesn't even use any useful uniques, which is cool, which I really like, because as of SSF gear like this, I mean, I didn't look at it yet, but I mean, there's a lot of spell suppression here, but other than that, it's pretty easy. Also, one thing that Jungroan typically does is he does this like all resistance, so he doesn't put any resistance on his gear. It's just like put it wherever. But even if you imagine resistance on his gear, I think he's pointing out he has like super simple, essentially 3 mod gear plus a craft. So I mean, spell suppression is a bit more difficult, but it's on the evasion base, so that's fine. But even on this one, right? Like life plus always think about resistance, and then single craft is super easy to do. Same here. Energy shield for, because we are EB again. Let's talk about the items maybe. That's very easily doable. No life. You can do this with reforged defenses, by the way. If you don't want life on your chest, and you don't want life on your chest, if you want to use this, like a really cool thing to get a cheap chest crafted yourself, maybe on a 5-link, like buying a random 5-link on a base should be easy to do. And then obviously the however he's called craft kind of thing. Gloves also pretty simple and standard. Same thing here, life resist. +1 should be easy enough to get. Anoint is super cheap. Rings also pretty fine. Craft is interesting. He talked about it in the video. That's actually a very interesting craft. So maybe we can do that. I don't know where it comes from. Probably June somewhere. I need to look that up. But yeah, basic rings. So there's like nothing on it. Another craft, which is very easy to get. It's also Syndicate. So there's a lot of Syndicate farming. Obviously, this is like super SSF, right? This is his SSF stuff, and getting any kind of jewel, that's good. Should also be possible. Obliteration makes total sense, I guess. Why not? In terms of skills, pretty basic Seismic. Interesting thing is that he's going to cast Exsanguinate himself. And I really like that idea. That's like really cool and helping a lot, I think. Basic movement setup, Withering Step with Defiance, still temporal chains. And he said to take like the double curse way later, which is kind of cool. Not too sure if I would agree with that myself. In terms of I would do that, I would probably take it a bit earlier, just because I really like the double curse. I like the temporal chains effect, not so for damage, just for everything is slowed. Like I'm really a big fan of that. But that's fine. Divine Blessing, Malevolence in this case, if you can. Or Haste during mapping, obviously. Like everybody's taking Haste now all the time. That's really interesting. But it has the same reservation, doesn't it? It's 50 and 50. And as long as you don't have enough energy shield, that's fine. We have this really cool aura setup. I think he did a really good job there in terms of like all the aura options you have technically for bossing. But this is for mapping anyway. So we have our Despair in here, Grace Determination and Herald of Agony, Exsanguinate self-cast. Really interested how that feels, because we don't have much cast speed, should we? Cast speed. Am I missing anything? Well, this is actually giving cast speed. Interesting. This is just for curses. I mean, there isn't much, and it's not on the gear, so I don't know how that feels. Maybe it feels fine. It probably feels okay. It always depends a bit. That's like one of the things with Jungroan's build. He sometimes plays really janky things, and he's okay with it feeling not perfect. That's a point where I would often disagree, but he's also kind of racing and, right, obviously a better player. So that's fine in that. In terms of energy shield, how do we solve energy shield? It's essentially roughly 500 is enough. And where does it come from? Probably just items, right? Definitely from this one here, because it has some energy shield. But where is everything else coming from? Is it just a crystal belt and then some increase? I mean, we can probably look at the calculations for energy shield. See, it's actually just 2 items. It's body armor and gloves. And, oh yeah, the belt. So a little bit on the gloves as well. Tiny amount from tree and some increase. That's actually already enough. That's not too bad, actually. If you opt for the body armor and you're okay with that having ES, then that's actually quite fine. Not having armor probably, right? I mean, that's okay. Other configuration. Let's look at config, by the way. I'm not really looking too much at the damage numbers right now, because it's clear anyway, so who cares? He has the ambush, just in case. That should be this one, right? Yeah, full and low life kind of things. That's probably fine. To put it that way, he has the nerf in, which is cool, and he has the resistance, because you need to solve them somewhere. We have frenzy charges, which we should get. Do we have the nodes, the trap nodes? Don't have the trap nodes, interesting enough. How do you get frenzy charges? Do you get them on kill? How did you solve your frenzy charges? Just didn't. Very good. It's probably on gear somewhere. Is it on gear somewhere? Or does he have the thing that kills yourself? He does not, right? Blood Rage. How do you get frenzy charges? Boots maybe? No. I don't know how you're getting frenzy charges. I don't know. Maybe he gets them somehow. If not, then obviously it'll be a bit sad. Having frenzy charges is really, really cool. But we don't use traps for clear anymore, right? So it's kind of annoying then to get them. Because before that was really easy. You just take this node here and it's like really cool. Right. Trap is triggered. And it's kind of fun. I mean, during mapping you don't want to rely on seismics to be triggered. I mean, you could maybe somehow take this. I get frenzy that way. But maybe he solved it some other way that I just don't see right now. What else are we doing? We're doing right now one unique. Okay, it's fine. Doesn't make much sense for the clearing setup. Applying a lot of poisons is super easy. In any case, probably. And recently it's typically 4 seconds, so that's fine. I mean, 50 poisons is a bit much maybe for clear. But I think this is just the bossing config, isn't it? Same with Wither stacks. You're not going to have 15 better stacks. Because you have no way other than here Withering Step to apply it, I believe. Unless I don't know how. You have the slower expiration. So you might get up to 12 on a map boss, right, by triggering this twice. Assuming this can actually stack up, but I think it can if like cooldown is low enough before it runs out. Like sort of has a 3-second cooldown, and the other things like with a lasts 4 seconds, I believe. But still effect duration might actually increase that. So yeah, maybe you get up to 15 if you press it like 3 times, but everything should be that by then. Okay, let's just ignore this a little bit in terms of, it doesn't really matter for clear, but I don't see how you get frenzy charges. That's something I would need to look into. So how do we get there? What's like the idea? He also has some leveling nodes here, by the way, like early leveling, like spectral throw into, I don't know, I'm not gonna do this. He explains this like in weapon swap, so you move fast. I'm not gonna bother with that. It's just Pekonk. And Held of Agony, obviously. There's the typical Plague Bearer. You get shield charge. And then you want to level a bunch in Innocence. And then you have your trap swap, which should be pretty early then, right? I think I would still. Let's see, pre-seismic. That's like the tree. I would probably take this to Kitava, Act 10. Easily. Do I want to swap early? I don't know. I would need to think about that. Doesn't really matter. It's probably strong enough to just kill everything, honestly. Especially with this node, this should be really, really cool and really easy to do. You need like no poison chance. Let's just assume you're gonna get through the campaign. Pretty easy tree. You have your life stuff. You could even take here there's like this life gain on hits. You can make us a bit more comfy, and just that's like one of the things again, keep in mind that he's really, really good at the game. So if you try to follow any of this, always keep in mind that he's very good. So you're gonna die way more than he will. He gets away with a lot of shit with someone not dying, which is cool. Then we have our map start thing, and that would be the point. Are there any other? No. Okay. That's like the basic seismic trap tree then. You probably have a third lab. I don't know what you would be taking. Probably this one, right? Maybe you take this one either. Doesn't really matter. Maybe you want to take this for the culling. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. Take one of the two, get the other. That's fine. Other than that's just a pretty normal tree. Oh, that's where the charges are. Yeah. Was this always here? I just never used it because of this, right? But you don't have it. What? How do you get charges, Jungroan? Talk to me. What the fuck? I have no idea. I have no idea then. Is it somewhere else? Wait. I need to figure this out right now. Are there? Oh, there's flask charges, obviously. Am I missing something? Is this giving you? No. I mean, there are no fancy charges. Why not? Maybe you want to actually allocate that during mapping. I mean, it's 3 points, right? Maybe just this one. Just one node. Who knows? Okay, fine. Moving on. Map start. So that's how you get into maps, essentially, right? And if we now look at, I mean, you will be falling first and everything, but everything else here is pretty fine. I mean, there's nothing crazy in there, right? Obviously, level 20 gems and but that's not the point. And getting similar items to this is also pretty fine. You would just take the lucky one here, or he already has the lucky one. And obviously, you wouldn't have much spell suppression to start with. I don't know why we're not taking... Are we taking Mage Bane later? Oh, we are. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe you want to take Mage Bane, get the lucky node, and then... We'll need to POB like how that looks. But yeah, it's a pretty default tree, I would say. Pretty normal one. It's interesting because you're no longer clearing with exsanguinate traps, right? So you don't need that many like quality of life, trap throwing nodes. You don't need to have this trigger area stuff. I don't know how that feels actually, to be honest, because as a Sabo, there's this node here, and this one is really, really underrated sometimes on how stuff feels, right? This when your traps trigger, your nearby traps also trigger. Is really interesting because if you don't have that, then traps are actually only triggered by enemies. Right, and if you have that node, then just one random trap needs to be triggered by an enemy, and all the traps around it will be triggered as well. And I have no idea how that feels. I tried it a bit on Pathfinder, and it was kind of weird, but I very quickly went into this node here, right, because of... it's actually a wrong node, isn't it? Oh yeah, the mastery here. 60% increased trap trigger area of effect, so they trigger easier, and the same one here, isn't it? Here's more area of effect for like 50% trap trigger area of effect, and that makes it kind of fine, but it's like a lot of investment, and we don't have that here. Might be okay for Seismic. No idea how okay it is in terms of if you want to spread your traps. If you assume this is an enemy, you don't want to throw them typically on them, right? Maybe it doesn't matter too much, but like you would distribute them around. So I'm not entirely sure if all of them even get triggered. Maybe they do because bosses are big enough in some kind of sense. I don't know. A bit worried about that one. They might feel really awkward. Good thing is you don't need it for clear. You don't need it all that much for clear, and getting a Seismic to trigger in a pack or something should be totally fine. So yeah, that's interesting in that case. Other than that, if we start out here and then go into mapping and everything, you're definitely going to have enough damage. 100%. That should be totally fine to clear. And you have the same thing that I have currently with Sabo, that you really don't have much life. Like on the street, there's like 80% life on tree, so that's going to be rather squishy. And you're still going to die to physical damage, right? We don't have any flasks on, but we have quite good gear here. So, like the first max hit here, or essentially the armor isn't too much. So you might have like the occasional one shot there as well, and your suppression is obviously also not kept. So it might feel very similar in terms of defense compared to the Saboteur. You just don't have blind. So you just don't have defenses, right? Where this, nothing of this gives you defense. Recovery might be okay because of this node, right? Getting life back. Because per poison affecting enemies you kill. It's just on kill again, right? It's not on trap explosions. You need to wait for the kill. It's like not this one. But this one is amazing in terms of that. Speaking of that, in general, how do you live? How do you not die? Obviously, you're squishy, you don't have any life, and you have not much physical reduction, but how do you get back any amount of life? Meaning bosses, you just don't? Do you? Recovery. Is there any recovery? I mean, there's some stuff. There's Blood Drinker. I mean, there's a lot of on kill then, maybe. I mean, that's probably okay, but during bosses, there's nothing to kill. So that stands. Do we have a region that I'm not seeing? Because we don't, because there's like no life regeneration outside of killing again. Might be okay because bosses die real quickly. Is there any recoup I'm not seeing? No, there's just not. So you just don't, basically. You need to kill stuff, and otherwise you have no region at all. You can't even throw traps on the ground and have them explode to region, because that worked here as well. So you just need a life blast, basically, and you're going to press this thing, like a lot. Which is okay, but something to be aware of, I feel like. And that's something I never solved here either. And I was kind of hoping he solved it somehow, but he did not. And that can be okay. Let's look for like later mapping. This doesn't change much, actually. I mean, there's also no huge region stuff down here, is there? Maybe this one a little bit. Or here? Is there somewhere a region node? Oh, here it is. There's a little bit of region, so we get like a few hundred, which is not too bad. And you technically could get it on gear, right? I mean, we looked over the gear, there's no region stuff in there at all. So yeah, you just don't. And you don't have Blood Drinker anymore, apparently. So it stays on Life Flask or die, basically. And other than that, you need to get your life back by killing stuff, which is probably okay during clear. Also, you have to keep in mind, I mean, Seismic is fine because it's using Eldritch Battery, but that is not the case for Exsanguinate. Like, that one costs you like 116 life to throw, apparently here. I don't know if the settings are correct, who cares? But just like, right, you're losing a bunch of life and you're recovering less. So you're actually going to lose life by throwing that. Obviously, you're not supposed to like spam Exsanguinate a boss. So you might need to just be a bit conservative with that in terms of spamming it, right? Because it doesn't have a huge effect on single target anyway, so you shouldn't do it, but I don't know. It might not feel all that great in that sense, and I'm just missing this node so much. Maybe I was a bit biased on that. That's okay. Fine. I like the idea of going down back here, and this might actually have enough damage. Because of Assassin, it probably has enough damage then to make it good enough. I can at least imagine. I mean, I would need to try it to actually judge that. But this is mapping anyway. Here's a few more POBs. I'm going to go a bit quicker over these probably. This is the one he suggests for bossing. So that's where we're going to have a look at damage, because that's when it matters. During mapping, this shouldn't matter. Keep in mind, also he's focusing on hardcore probably. But I like that. Right? I like hardcore builds. In softcore, it's amazing. And a lot of people hate that a lot, and that's also okay. Okay, is there much difference between these trees? Probably not, right? Set them up similar so we can maybe spot some difference here. There really isn't. It's really just here. Oh, he's not even taking the cooldown for mapping. That's interesting. Okay. I don't want to respec as much, but fine. But also, to be fair, this is like for like actual big bossing, I assume. Like even Ubers, probably. Something like that. So yeah, maybe that's fine then. That's okay. Obviously lethal shade, and he doesn't want to be stunned, which makes sense. Other than that, it's pretty much the same tree. Let's look a bit at damage. Like, how much damage are we doing on the config? Right. What are we even using? We're still on a 5-link here, which is amazing, really cool. Still the blade trap tag. Could be some increased duration there still. Maybe that matters. Does blade trap actually hit anything? Or is it like 50%? Probably. Oh yeah, it's fine. That's good enough. Blade trap setup. You can play with that a little bit, but socket pressure is going to be high. There's a Divine Blessing Malevolence. And then you're going to have, obviously, your curse. You need your curse. And then you probably always want Determination. And then he's probably taking Skitterbots and then one of the auras, depending on what he's fighting, which is cool. Like these are for like actual bossing. You can take this for non-Ubers as well, right? If you're interested. That's totally fine. Because these are actually insane. Because there's like 4% additional max fire res. And if you're like fighting Exarch or whatever, then that's really cool. The only thing you need is fire rest. So this is like really cool. I used this only on Ubers so far, but you could do that, stuff like that on non-Ubers if you struggle with them, right? And then he has this Arcanist brand thing. I think that's like a really cool tech. It's because of this, you said, because of Noxus Strikes. So you actually apply a bunch of poison, right? So that's like really cool to ramp that up. It's like a really smart idea. I kind of like that. That might be really cool to do. And you're still, obviously, you're double cursing by hand, right? Where's the other one? Oh no, this one is actually in the Arcanist brand because you have it anyway. Fair enough, but the other one you do probably by hand, right? Oh, there's the spare. Yeah, okay, you do that. Same gear probably still. Okay, this is now fancy, more fancy gear here. You could also use a cold iron point there, probably. But that's not guaranteed. You can do also stuff with Mings probably and whatnot. That's not so bad. Also in terms of defenses, obviously physical isn't huge, but it's good enough. Probably, and you can't get hit during actual bossing anyway, so this is never gonna face tank. This is fine. I kind of forgot I wanted to look at the defenses and talk about them on the mapping setup a little bit. Like armor isn't insanely high here, right? And this is like without flasks. If you take on the where's it, the quartz flask, and you get one with, or the other one, whoops, like like a really good granite, this goes up quite a bit, and you have like a shit ton of armor, and you can keep them up quite a bit if you want to. Right, so that's totally fine, and we have this maximum resist back. That's like I really miss this entire area here, so I'm quite interested there. But yeah, so defense wise, this should be really, really cool. Except for you don't really have recovery outside of killing stuff and your flask, obviously. So something you need to be aware. Same thing here. Defenses are rather similar, I would say. Do we have less somehow? No, we don't. We just have more of the relevant element, and in the case of Exarch, like all the others, I don't think he deals any non-fire damage, does he? Maybe physical, but all of this shouldn't really matter. So that's kind of cool. Other than that, that's skills, that's fine. Blade Trap, it's really good. It's also, you're also not killing yourself, interestingly enough, you're not killing yourself anymore during boss fights, right? So this life region isn't actually that bad. It's kind of helpful. And in terms of items, he's still on the very SSF friendly ones. Let's have a look how much damage this will deal. Right? If you look at the configuration here, it's leave this because it's fine. 20 poisons applied recently. This plate, we definitely apply a lot of poisons recently. With the Arcanist brand thing. So that's totally fine. Actually the right setting as well. Is poisoned. Number of poisons on the enemy might actually be a shit ton, right? Especially with the Arcanist brand and Seismic's going off. Wither stacks 15 is definitely something you get. I still don't know how you're getting frenzy charges, but I don't know. Maybe there's some hint. Somebody let me know how you get frenzy charges. So this should matter maybe a little bit, right? And that's pretty fine. Neither enemy snuff, and this one is also cool. I mean, that's okay. I mean, how much do you get out of it? It's like 3 million DPS out of no items at all. Like there isn't much damage on this. This is kind of cool, and depending on what you want to look at, you can also go with average waves by enemy size and look at like maybe some kind of a pre-stack. Oh yeah, we need full DPS then. Maybe at like 5 million. Which is also fine. I mean, this is enough to take down everything in the game. Probably. Not so sure about Ubers, but I have very little Uber experience, to be fair. But you can definitely kill them, I think, if you want to use this for arrays. I see that. And as I said, this is like still very, very cheap gear. And we could improve on that quite a bit in a softcore trade environment, like a ton. So that's kind of cool. I mean, fine with that. I'm actually liking this so far. Except for the region thing. I'm really worried about that one, because that seems so unsolved. There's like the softcore bossing tree that, interesting enough, still takes this stuff. I would have expected this to be all gone and all be here and have like... I mean, there's a lot of damage all of a sudden. Like, holy, what's the difference? Oh, we have like a 6-link now. That's obviously helpful. We have still the same. We have Withering Step. Still Divine Spanner, nice. Our chains. There is Malevolence in there, obviously. Determination. What are we taking? Still determination, skitter, and despair, and then depending on the boss. And we have this Arcanist brand, like pretty much the same setup, right? How do you weapon 1, weapon 2? Yeah, a thing missing, gloves. That's boots then, right? Boots, gloves, helmet. Both weapons. Seismic trap. Am I crazy? How do you apply wither? Is it just really withering step? Is that what we're doing? I mean, fair enough. Maybe you have enough damage, but then you're not gonna have 15 things, dude. Maybe 6, maybe 12 if you had them again. Okay, interesting. How do you apply wither? It's just withering step apparently then in the setup. I mean, that's fine. And obviously, so it's essentially just getting the items right. Cold iron point and double mings, which is fair and just really removes your life also quite a bit. Like, this is always heavy. I know how that works. I mean, that's okay. Lots of life flasks for the bossing tech. You do the same, just having a lot of life flasks during bossing. I actually didn't look at that. I mean, that's appropriate flask, right? You would just take one of the 3 and then take probably also a lot of life flask, right? I think that maybe just helps enough for recovery until the boss is dead. It might be okay, actually. Fine. I mean, yeah. There's no blade trap in this setup. That's really weird for softcore. But maybe damage is just high enough. Or you forgot about it. Who knows? I mean, fine, fair enough. Most interesting version is obviously this one, the mapping version and then the bossing version for that. Can mix in better items, different items, if you're a softcore trade. But I mean, overall, I think it's pretty cool. I still don't know if I'm okay with recovery, and I'm not sure if I'm okay with this even less life than I typically take, like in terms of defense very early on. I wouldn't just blindly recommend this to everyone. But it's definitely an interesting concept. I have to try this for sure to have a better picture on it. But that's my main concern right now. And I'm also not sure how good Exsanguinate actually feels, say, cast on the setup in terms of cast speed and everything and clearing and how well that feels. And yeah, without the blind, without the region, just like there's like no defense in this, just a different region. Maybe it feels fine. I don't know. I'm rambling. Anyway, cool. Enjoy. Good luck trying this if you want to. Make sure you check out Jungroan's actual video on it, because he knows what he's doing probably. He can explain to you what his thoughts about this are. And I'm definitely gonna try this at some point in the league. Cool. Bye.